Magandang umaga. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Danang for APEC 2017. Just to quickly brief you, we concluded the senior officials meeting yesterday, and today we are having the APEC ministerial meeting. The Philippines is represented, of course, by Secretary Cayetano as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Secretary Lopez as the Minister for Trade. Both of them are in the opening session right now, and the whole day we will have the APEC ministerial meeting. Of course, we expect the President's arrival later in the afternoon, and we will then have the first event for the President will be at the APEC CEO Summit. The President will be giving a keynote speech on ASEAN, and he has been invited as a special keynote guest as ASEAN chair. Thereafter, of course, the President will be having some bilaterals, one of which will be with the President of Vietnam, the host country for APEC. So I think you have also with you the President's schedule. There will, of course, be on the after the 9th, the 10th is the beginning of one of the important dates, because this is where the ABAC, the APEC Business Advisory Council, the private sector institution of APEC, will give their annual report to all the APEC leaders with a set of recommendations on how to move forward and how to progress inclusive global growth. After this ABAC dialogue with leaders, there is a very important landmark event, which is the first ever APEC and ASEAN leaders informal dialogue. This is an important highlight because this is on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of ASEAN, and of course the President, as ASEAN chair, will be leading the ASEAN leaders. And Vietnam, as APEC host and chair, will be leading the APEC leaders. It is an important milestone because as guests, we have the non-APEC ASEAN members with us, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos. So this will be an important occasion wherein the dialogue on regional economic integration between APEC and ASEAN will be had. And then, of course, there will be an important gala dinner, and of course, the next day will be the retreat proper of the leaders having a whole day of discussions among themselves. Thank you.
Sir, may we know the final list of the heads of state that will be having bilateral meeting with the President, aside from Vietnam?
Well, we have, with Papua New Guinea, there will be a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. For your information, of course, Papua New Guinea will be the new APEC chair for 2018 and will host the series of meetings of senior officials, ministers, and leaders for 2018. So this will be an important dialogue between the two heads of state. There is also a scheduled bilateral meeting with Russia, President Putin, and there are other scheduled side meetings being arranged. Let's not forget, during the 2-3 days of meetings, there will be coordinated pull-asides and meetings between various heads of state.
Sir, may we know what are the agenda on the bilateral meeting, specifically on Russia?
From, of course, the agenda is being taken care of by our geographic offices. As of now, of course, there is a follow-up to the visit of the President to Moscow between the two leaders. As you well know, the meeting was cut short. It will be an opportunity for them to resume their discussions, as well as to express thanks for the commitment and aid of Russia in the Marawi crisis. I am sure the Marawi crisis will be one of the important topics of discussion, how to counter terrorism and radicalization. And of course, there is also the important factor of economic cooperation, which is the highlight of APEC, and the increased potential of economics, business, and trade and investment between Russia and the Philippines. Of course, we have here now also Ambassador Noel Sarbigon. He may wish to tell you a little more about the scheduled bilateral with the Vietnam president.
Good morning. I just came from a meeting early this morning with, together with Mayor Cayetano and the city chairman of Da Nang. It's the first kind of meeting that we have arranged with the local government units here in Vietnam, and we are pleased that the results of the meeting is productive. The Mayor Lani Cayetano, the wife of our secretary, we arranged a meeting with the chairman of the city of Da Nang.
Hi, sir. Sir, will there be a sister cities pact between the two cities, Da Nang and Taguig, following this meeting?
During the meeting, there was talk of further cooperation between the two cities. Mayor Cayetano briefly presented developments in Taguig, while the chairman of the city of Da Nang also presented the developments here in his city. And we hope that it will be a good start for the two cities to further improve their cooperation with one another. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, sa bilaterals lang. Sir, with Yusek Tehanki, sir, when is the scheduled meeting? Can you give us the time? Yung sa Russia, Papua New Guinea, and Vietnam. Will be tomorrow or the next day?
For Vietnam, it will be tomorrow. First, as I mentioned, tomorrow there will be the APEC CEO keynote speech of the President at the Ariana Convention Center for the APEC CEO conference. After that, there will be the Vietnam bilateral. That will be the next day. Yes.
Next day.
Yes, also. Yes.
Ay, sir, Ambassador. And then, sorry. Sir, we've talked about Papua New Guinea and Russia, yung possible agenda. About with the Vietnamese leader, what will be the possible agenda? Will there be agreements to be signed between the President and the Vietnamese leader? And can you describe us the relations between the two countries?
The meeting between President Duterte and President Quang of Vietnam will be the second time that they will have since the assumption of office of both presidents last year. If you recall, President Duterte made a state visit here last September, and this will be the second chance for them to meet again.
Possible topics po between the two leaders.
Well, of course, there is the first and foremost the congratulations on the APEC hosting of Vietnam. So there also the increased dialogue, bilateral economic relations between the two countries, and also developments in the ASEAN region.
Yes.
Meron po bang mga bilateral agreement na pipirmahan po?
For the bilateral agreements, there will be none. It will just be a friendly.
Yes, yes, because this is an APEC summit, where all the leaders are present, and they're taking the chance to have short bilateral meetings and consultations.
Sir, good morning. What about President Xi Jinping of China? And yung sa Chile din daw po, and Hong Kong?
Yes, there are that we have both sides are checking the schedules of whether this is feasible. As of now, they are under the protocol scheduling. So they are all flying in at different times. So as you can imagine, they will be interacting at the meetings. And they will be, and some of these bilateral meetings will be pulled aside. So as of now, that's in process and not yet confirmed.
Yusek Tehanki. Sir, do we expect outcome documents as a result of the whole APEC summit? What do we expect will be the tone of the leaders when it comes to protectionism, things like that, sir?
Yes, a very good question. We have been at senior officials level and technical level. They are working very hard over the past 2 days on having an important leaders' declaration and message. There will also be an outcome document of the APEC ministerial statement. So we can expect the outcome documents at the end of the leaders' meetings. And there will be a leaders' declaration as well as action plans to be endorsed to the leaders to adopt.
Sir, without giving much of the ano lang, can you just give us, sir, a preview of the themes that the leaders might take up in those statements or those documents, sir?
Yes. Of course, being an economic cooperation organization, one of the key themes is deepening regional integration. And as the leaders gather, in the wake of global economic recovery, it is very important that leaders continue to dialogue and cooperate to ensure that this global economic recovery continues. There are continued risks, and it is one of the themes is the discussions on how we can continue the economic growth. The other theme that is, of course, very, very important that the APEC leaders are all emphasizing, and in today's ministerial meeting, they are emphasizing this at their statements, is the promotion of sustainable, innovative, and inclusive growth. As mentioned, globalization has often been mentioned leading to winners and losers, and there is the question of how to move forward and ensure that globalization results in benefits for all. And this is the mantra of inclusive growth. That means that the benefits of wealth creation through globalization are distributed evenly to all developing countries.
Sir, just to press further lang, there are ongoing talks to salvage the RCEP. Then in the ASEAN front, we have this TPP with other free trade agreements. Sir, how could the Philippines possibly step up to promote these trade agreements, and how will it affect APEC member economies?
Actually, it's a very good question. Right now, the Japanese minister has reported that there are ongoing here in Da Nang, Vietnam, increased discussions on TPP. The TPP 11 countries have stated that they are in serious discussions towards the entry into force of the TPP. So they have renewed their commitment to move forward with the TPP. On RCEP, the President has taken a leading role, and of course, there will be a very important ASEAN in Manila meeting of all the RCEP leaders. There will, in fact, be an RCEP leaders meeting during the ASEAN meetings on the 14th of November. So there are already, of course, interventions relating to RCEP and the importance of ASEAN centrality. And this will, of course, also be a topic during the discussions of the ASEAN APEC dialogue. It is very relevant because this relates to deepening, integrating economic integration in the Asia-Pacific and in the ASEAN-centered regions.
Sir, dun lang po dun sa may, di ba may informal talks between ASEAN and APEC. Ano kayang possible na topics dun, sir? Yun din ba, sir, with regards to how will we work out with the trade agreements or paano po kaya?
Well, I would, that's why we are all quite eager to hear the President's words. And of course, we will not pull the wind out of it by giving you too much information. But we are ready with the President's speech to be delivered on the 9th. However, the key themes and the title of the, of course, the title of the keynote speech relates to ASEAN's, what ASEAN lessons has been learned and what is the message of ASEAN to APEC. Of course, we all know that ASEAN is a very vibrant and important regional economic integration area, and APEC, of course, is an economic cooperation organization. So there are best practices that can be learned from both sides, and APEC is known to be a good incubator of economic and business ideas, while ASEAN is indeed a model of regional economic integration, of gradual economic development, and fostering inclusive growth and ensuring prosperity is the goal, prosperity for all its citizens. So in ASEAN, there is a very important theme of integrating MISMIs, small, medium, micro industries into the larger economy. And this is a very common theme between the APEC theme as well as the ASEAN theme. Of course, a very important theme this year in APEC is fostering food security. Again, a very important issue for the Philippines and other developing countries in APEC. And that is where I think Secretary Cayetano and Secretary Lopez will be championing the importance of food security and inclusive growth.
Sir, confirm na po na wala ng bilateral with US President Donald Trump? Or may chance pa rin?
Based on the schedule, President Trump is on his way to Manila on the 12th, 13th, and 14th. And there is already in the schedule a bilateral between President Trump and President Duterte. So they're working out the schedule. Most likely, that is being targeted for a fuller bilateral will be and more impressive in the ASEAN context, where, of course, the president is the host country and the host chair at the gala dinner, as well as in this very important bilateral meeting between, it will be the first ever meeting between President Trump and President Duterte.
But they will see each other here.
Of course, the first occasion, just for your information, President Trump will be flying in and will also be giving a keynote speech at the APEC CEO conference. President Trump is speaking on November 10. The President is speaking on November 9. And then there is, of course, the very important private sector APEC Business Advisory Council report to all the leaders. All the leaders will be assembled at the Ariana Convention Center. At the, I'm not sure where, but all the leaders will be assembled to receive the report of the APEC Business Advisory Council. So all 21 leaders, both President Trump and President Duterte included, will be there to receive the report of the APEC Business Advisory Council. After that report is delivered, there will be breakout sessions wherein the Business Advisory Council members will be dialoguing with sets of leaders. There will be 4 or 5 rooms. let us not forget then after that, there is this ASEAN APEC dialogue. So President Trump will be included in the APEC leaders, and of course President Duterte will be. It will be a round table of all 21 plus 3. So it will be 24 leaders in this table because we have the additional of Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia.
Sir, will the president speak or say a lot of things about terrorism and drug problem sa kanyang speech dito sa APEC summit?
Well, during the the theme in the APEC CEO conference, of course, is ASEAN and APEC. But during the dialogue, there is dialogues on how to ensure continued economic growth and how to make it inclusive. So from the president will be focusing on how to ensure that globalization is indeed will benefit all APEC members and all nations. Of course, as a corollary to this, there is the issue that the president also champions of securing economic growth. In order to continue the global recovery and economic growth, there must be a globalized peace and order and globalized political security. So from the initial drafts, there is mention in the leaders' declaration of ensuring this battle of ensuring and securing political and security as well as anti-terrorism.
Sir, dun lang po sa mga medium enterprises, how does APEC see or envision yung pagpapartake ng mga small businesses in the growth of these 21 APEC economies? Paano po yung connection dun?
One of the key advocacies of APEC is how to provide for social and financial inclusion. So MISMEs represent 90% of the business sector. And of course, the multinationals are quite large corporations as well as domestic large corporations. Yeah. One of the key themes in APEC is how to integrate this MISMEs into the global value chain. Because even if a local supplier is making one special product, this special product can be integrated into the components of a medium-sized company, and the medium-sized company can provide other components to a larger company, and this, of course, large Philippine corporations then provide value chain to Chinese companies or American companies, and then so there is they call this the global supply chain or global value chain. One of the president's advocacies, and of course our minister's advocacies, is ensuring that the global supply chain, that the Philippines will get a fair share of the value of this, and that the Philippines participates in higher value added rather than just selling our raw materials for a cheap price and then not gaining the full value if we are competitive, have innovation and technology. And this will be achieved through MISMEs having access to finance, access to innovation, access to technology, and the issue, as they say, of complementation and cooperation. So there is a partnership among companies in the whole APEC region as well as companies in the whole ASEAN region to help each other join in this global value chain. So I think that is the kind of ideal setting. Yeah. This is not to say that it always happens that way, but so the challenge is ensuring that the policymakers are aware of the possible distortions and possible sectors that are left behind. For example, if farmer sectors are not given enough microfinance support or capital, then there must be policy recommendations from both the APEC policymakers and ASEAN policymakers to ensure that all sectors get the government support or access to finance needed.
In terms of the global market, sir, where do you think we can contribute and what do we contribute in that global supply chain? Yung mga parang strengths natin that we can highlight.
In the global supply chain, the Philippines has a strong investment. As you all know, with the digital connectivity and global connectivity, Philippines is a leader in the BPO industry, call centers, and all this is only possible because of, I suppose, the electronic and digital age. So the Philippines has an edge of being connected and being able to provide services in this area. Okay. So we have a very important niche area of high value added services. We have a very productive, efficient, literate, educated population. And then we also have quite a number of, because of our educational system, we generate a high number of engineers and IT personnel. So if we can replicate this in other sectors like agriculture, if we replicate it also in mechanization, technology, so there's also a lot of potential there. Given the investment already in the Philippines of many electronic chip manufacturers, so Philippines is already a participant in the global value chain for the IT industry and electronics. Of course, in agriculture, we are a provider. The Russia visit yielded a potential purchase of Russian agriculture requirements from the Philippines, and they committed to, they said they have funding available of up to 2 billion. But of course, this will require government support, accreditation, certification. So just like we have with Japan, a very lucrative agriculture trade because of cooperation between the two countries on certifying and ensuring quality, we have to do the same with the new markets, non-traditional markets that the President has been attempting to develop, such as in Russia and other countries. We are, of course, also exploring ideas with non-traditional partners such as in the Pacific Alliance, or as we say, our partners in South America, Central and South America, given the long tradition, historical ties we have from the Acapulco trade. As you all know, at the ASEAN Ministerial last August, they have inaugurated the Galleon Museum. And so I think that is also another theme to expect from the President's speech on ASEAN APEC. So it's quite an interesting area, actually. ASEAN APEC, if you look at it, the whole APEC region is across the whole Asia Pacific or the whole Pacific Ocean. And if you look at ASEAN and Philippines, we are at the forefront of the relationship between South America and North America on one side, and we are on the other side with the ASEAN group. As well, of course, if China, Japan, Korea are +3 partners. So you already see the importance of ASEAN, ASEAN +3, that represents the whole Western APEC region. And if you look at South America and NAFTA, that represents the whole Eastern APEC region.
Sir, I'm not sure I got it, no? But where did you say President Trump and President Duterte will first meet?
Interact. They will first have the first interaction when they, as APEC leaders, will receive on November 10 the APEC Business Advisory Council report to leaders. That's in the afternoon of November 10.
What are our expectations given their, they say similar personalities, and have the American side expressed interest in probably have a pull aside here before the bilateral meeting in Manila?
Yes, there will be surely opportunity because of the interaction during at the holding rooms, the VIP rooms, and what we have gathered, both presidents are looking very much forward to personally meeting each other. They have had, as you all know, 2 phone calls already had, and the last one was at the during the August was it the April summit, the ASEAN summit.
During where they discussed the North Korea threat,
Yes,
no?
yes.
So why do you think is that so? Na pareho silang interested in each other.
Well,
I mean, of course, the U.S. has interest in in ASEAN, no, because of our strategic location and our pivot to China and away from the United States. So, can we elaborate more on how important is this relationship as represented by these two who seem to like each other?
well, first and foremost, the Philippines and the United States are traditional and strong allies, and they represent the aspirations and ambitions of both the American and Philippine peoples. And so both presidents are committed to the welfare, economic well-being of their citizens. They both look at globalization with caution. There is positive to globalization, but there's also negative that must be addressed. So they both, I think, speak to the importance of inclusive growth. Meaning inclusive growth simply means that there are benefits for all citizens, especially those who are not feeling the benefits and those who need to garner a fairer share of the global economy as well as of their domestic economy.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay na, sir? Okay, sir. Thank you.
Salamat.
Sir, 1 minute lang.